Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Communities Unite, where it's a really cool series where guests I've been on before get to come on again. So it's really cool. So today I'm joined with Ryan and Sarah, and we're going to be talking about IBD, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, and autism as well. So it's going to be really cool. And where we're just going to introduce ourselves. So Ryan, if you mind introducing yourself first, and then Sarah, you can afterwards.
Yeah, no problem. Firstly, thanks for having me back on. I really appreciate it. I think it's been a while since we sort of last. Been good to be back on. So my name's Ryan. I'm 28 years old. I live in Lisburn in Northern Ireland, and I was diagnosed with autism when I was 13. Also diagnosed with ADHD. That was when I was 7 or 8. Sort of since I turned 18, really, I've sort of been working as a sort of autistic advocate, mainly in the areas of sort of employment for young people and sort of life skills for young autistic people in order to prepare them for sort of entering into the adult world and the world of work and sort of everything that entails. Because I find when I was sort of thrown head first into it, there was a lot of things I didn't know and I seemed to just be expected to know. So it's kind of the thing is that I would like to use my experience to be able to help people who are gonna go through the same journey I am, so that they don't have to fall into the pitfalls that I did.
Yeah, it's really cool, Ryan, because I think like you say, it's probably about a year since we last did our episode, so it's probably about the same amount of time, I think. So it's really cool, and like you can continue doing your work with like autism, ADHD, so that's awesome. Sarah, it's great to have you back again.
Hello, thank you very much for having me back. And again, it's great seeing you again and getting caught up. Really appreciate it too. And lovely seeing Ryan as well. Myself and Ryan went to university together, so it's lovely catching up with all like the three of us together. Yeah, so my name's Sarah. I've just turned 29 there. And I actually think very scarily it was maybe closer to maybe 2 years ago, Mason, we done the first
Maybe,
one, which
yeah.
I'm one is insane now I'm thinking about it because it doesn't feel like that long ago. Um, yeah, I'm from Belfast in Northern Ireland, and I got again. Now I'm thinking of all the dates. Scary how time flies. I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease back in December 2017, so nearly 5 years diagnosed now, and definitely had symptoms for about 4 or 5 years before, which I find a bit scary to say because it makes me go, oh, flip, have I actually had Crohn's for nearly 10 years? But it does not feel like that at all. But I'm very thankfully in remission now. I've one lingering operation to get, but they're waiting on specialist equipment, but that's for fistulas and stuff. But I've been really lucky. Vedolizumab has got me into remission, and I'm currently doing well, which is great.
Yeah, like like fistulas can be a pain. I can't
Oh,
know.
so we know they're awful,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, they're not talked about enough, I don't think, really, because it's quite a shy topic, isn't it? Like to talk about them.
Oh, completely. And I think it's because a lot of the time where they tend to affect because of how like anatomy is. I know it's grim for some people, but a lot of the time, as they call it, perianal, I think, which is a bit in between the front and back. Because if that's the flat bit, that's where all the inflammation can form between everything. That's what the doctors had said. So that's why they're, and then because of that, there they cause issues because of where they are. But annoying that they're so small, but cause major havoc on people's bodies, and they're so painful too.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember that you say to 2017 because our diagnosis, like with Crohn's, wasn't that far off each other. I think you're a month later than me. If you say
Yeah,
not
that,
November.
I remember that. I remember you saying we were diagnosed same year, but you were the few months before just.
Yeah, yeah, and like. When was your because I remember when we last did it, Sarah, we were talking about your book, and it was like I think nearly getting released. It was about that kind of time we did it.
It was. It's scary. I can't believe how long or like how like it's been 2 years since I've done it. So yeah, that's right. I done the ebook to see how it was kind of go this time. Yeah, about 2 years. It was November time, 2020. Yeah,
Mm.
I'd finished it and done the wee ebook, and then in the summer, I had it made into. So I think by around maybe August 2021, it was then made into paperback. So now I have it in paperback as well. And yeah, done that there, wee book, just because at the time I remember like just really struggling. Any information I was trying to find, couldn't like really get it on the internet, like things I was trying to find. And then I just kind of like started writing, and then ended up writing about my journey. But like, it's incredibly honest and open to the point I think it scares a few people. But it's just basically explaining like what everything was like living with it, and giving people like that knowledge if they don't have Crohn's, to kind of maybe know what it's like, or for people that do have it, something to relate to and maybe like get a bit of comfort out of. And yeah, because it was all done for charity too, then I donate the profits to Crohn's and Colitis UK as well.
Yeah, it's just really cool. Like, it's crazy how long ago it was. I'm with you, Ryan, as well, because it doesn't really seem that long. That
No.
we all talk to each other. Well, we don't all talk to each other like this. We're all separate, but it's good that we're all here together, because like, Sarah, you recommended Ryan to come on in the first place, so it's great to have Ryan on. And it was really interesting when we had our chat, Ryan, because like you mentioned about your sister having ulcerative colitis, so it was.
I think at the time, my sister was just in the process of being diagnosed, which, I'll be honest, the doctors, I felt like were just guessing. And then I think Sarah's book was sort of coming out around the same time. And I will be honest, I knew nothing about Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. Indeed, the first thing my sister said to me, "Oh, the doctors told me about this," and I went, "Okay, what's that?" I had no idea. And then it just so happened, then the cogs started turning around, thinking, I seen a book by someone. And then it just so happened it came on my Instagram feed the next day, and I was like, "Oh, that's what it is." And then I think I ordered it pretty much straight away. And it wasn't just me, obviously, and I handed it to my sister, and I think she found it quite helpful. What I did laugh at is, see, reading it, obviously, because I went to uni with Sarah for 2 years, I could hear her voice. And
That's what me says. Sorry, that's so funny.
You're just swearing. It's like I think it was at the one in the airport. I could just see you like standing.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Oh, this is so that to me. I thought, okay, well, I can trust the information here because I can tell it's been written with someone with direct first-person experience. And like you said, the first things I done was I googled it, and it obviously directs to the NHS website, but it's just pretty much explaining the symptoms and sort of saying what to do if you think you have it, or how to get a diagnosis. Nothing about how does it affect people, how does it, how do you manage it day to day. I think basically the NHS on this, and surgery is an option for some. Others, indeed, need others who's quite severe. They need to get a stoma bag, I believe. Is that the right thing? Yeah. So it's like it's things like that. I'm sitting learning, and it's like it's all very clinical. It's all very medical, and it's like you almost need a translation. And okay, but what does this mean on a day-to-day basis? That's actually what Sarah's book done. It gave you a real insight into what it's like. And like from my sister, obviously, we're having a toddler. As you can imagine, her life is hectic enough. I did have to laugh because I remember my sister telling me when she got diagnosed, the doctor said to her, "So what can tend to cause this is stress. Do you have any stressful things in your life?" And she goes, "Of a 1-year-old son." And the doctor goes, "Yeah, that would probably be quite stressful."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Basically, life, but like just something then just triggers it.
Absolutely.
One of them, but again, it's something that was never discussed.
Yeah, I definitely think for myself, I think stress triggered mine. My symptoms started just at the start of second year of uni. But I had like moved out of home for the first time, had like my granny was really unwell, she was dying. I'd like failed a module and was waiting for the reset results, like so much stress going on. And I think then my symptoms started, and I think it was all that combined.
No, I do remember that being actually quite a difficult part for you because you weren't there as often. I remember it was like an unspoken thing and that something's going on, but it's like we don't want to sound like we're prying into someone's life. It's like, it's a case of where's the line, if you will. And I know that there's at times like having spoken to some of the other ones we went to uni with, and knew with a few of them, they're always a bit not off with me, but they're always a bit apprehensive sometimes with me in terms of, like, for example, you remember on the outside, I was always the one that wanted to go home early. and they're always like, "Is he okay? Is he enjoying himself?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am, but I've hit my limit for the day. I would like to go home, please."
No, absolutely, Flip. We should have also had the same sense to do the same.
I distinctly remember the snowball fight outside Ollie's at 1 a.m.
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, the ones that was there. That was the one that one of us nearly got lifted for throwing a snowball at a police officer after he told us not to do it. I'll give you. It's a very
There, I can't. Or I was too drunk. I can't remember this. That's awful.
very tall person from Whitehead that got trapped in a tent.
As soon as you said very tall person, I knew exactly who you were talking about. Must message him actually and be like, "Heard you're up to no good."
Doesn't remember it.
No, I would say not. That's funny. I'm going. I have no memory of this either. That's hilarious.
It's a good thing. You don't actually know what's going on behind the curtain. You know.
Oh, especially when people like ourselves, we look like totally normal. If you know what I mean. Like you would never look and go, "There's something up there."
And if someone's using disability in like a wheelchair or a walking stick or something, people will automatically offer you help because they see that you're maybe struggling. But if you don't have the little visual sorry, there's fireworks going off in the house behind me. I don't know if you can hear it on the camera.
No, sure.
No, can't hear it.
Not a visual cue, or if there's not an immediate sign that something's wrong. I don't really like that term, but if there's not an immediate visible sign, people don't tend to be very considerate. I've found sometimes once people know the full picture, they tend to be very supportive. But sometimes I find people don't always give you the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
there's not a problem with is that sometimes, as usual, need to know if you need to go, you need to go.
Absolutely.
Is it Starbucks, for example? I think is a frequent culprit for this one. Says, "Can I come in? Can I use your loo?" No, customers only. She's like, "Look, I will buy something, but can I use your loo, please?" And I'll be like, "No." Even she has, is it a card or something? I can't remember what it is, a card or something.
The needs to you, yeah. And the fact she has that and they're still saying no, that's a lot wrong.
Even
that's bad.
The acceptance said, "No, that's not for us. Or our toilets are staff only." But equally as well. But she also, in her position, in her work, she knows if someone comes in and sort of asks, "I really need to use your," she'll just let them use it, no questions asked, because she knows it's not a very dignified position to be in, to literally have to beg someone to use the toilet.
Absolutely. Nobody in their right mind would ever do that.
Never mind if she has Ethan with her, she's a small child as well. She's obviously stressed out. You know what I mean? It's like just a wee bit of sympathy. It's not like you're asking a huge thing. It is a customer toilet, especially.
Exactly. Literally with a disability card as well. Like this person is not joking around. Like funny you say that as well. Actually, Ryan, there's a girl I know, and she actually has she has Crohn's and a stoma, and she said like similar things have happened. I think it was McDonald's. She said. She needed to use the bathroom to like empty her bag or whatever, and the security guard was like no, and then she basically had to get out her card and like explain like, "I have a stoma, I have to do this," and apparently he eventually let her in, but he turned around to her boyfriend and was like, "She doesn't need to make up that something wrong with her to like use the bath," like really something really horrible like that. And I remember just thinking, wow, where do people get on this?
Because the thing is then it makes a scene. And people are like, "Why do you want to make a scene?" I'm like, "I'm not making a scene. I'm desperate."
Literally.
Yeah.
I'm doing this because I need to. Like, exactly. For example, a similar one when going through airports is I love flying. The act of being on the plane. The process of getting onto the plane, however, I hate.
Oh, it's stressful.
So it was the first time I'd flown in 3 years. It would have been there when I was going to Cyprus. And we're at Dublin Airport now. It wasn't too bad. I've been through Dublin Airport a few times. Now, my slum floor lanyard is normally on my house keys, but as I moved house, I never put my lanyard on my new keys. So I got there and then realized I don't have my lanyard, but we managed to get the assistance. But I seen at least a dozen people in the queue as I walked past staring at me, and I could hear at least 2 people say, "How's he getting that?" And honestly, especially as I hadn't had my ADHD medication at that point because of the time difference and all, and I had to stop myself from turning around and throwing the letter I had in my hand to say that I was entitled to this at them. Which I'm just thinking, it's not like I'm getting on the plane ahead of you. It's a case of still going through the exact same security procedures, and it's a case of if I'm made to stand in that big queue, I'll have a complete meltdown. I sometimes in joke, it's like a Disney fast pass, but it is required because it is an assistance thing, and like I said, it's a case of there's been a time, especially when my parents lived in Asia, there's been some miscommunications with the airport, so I've got off the plane and there's been a wheelchair waiting for me because they've just.
No way.
So the first time it happened in Singapore, I got so embarrassed I walked straight past as they were going, Mr. Hendry, Mr. Hendry, and I was like, no, that's not me. I'm fine.
You're like, wait, go away.
Again, I think, was that their fault? They were just probably told, right, this flight's coming in, X amount of people, these passengers, X, Y, and Z need special assistance. No, mate, that's fine. I think it's all gives those people the benefit of the doubt, but it's sometimes that thing when maybe again it's not understood.
Yeah, I definitely think so. The wee sunflower lanyard, I couldn't say that there. My mum had told me about a year ago, I think, to grab one. So before going, I have two madly different experiences with it. Whenever I used it going through Belfast International, going to Paris, the security guard seen me with it, and stopped me and got me into the fast track lane, which was brilliant. And then I've had times come back where I've waited, but they've just been like, no, we see this next time, come on up to the top. But recently there in September, I went anxious, so I was like, I'll put the pass on just in case. And the security guard seen it, but didn't do any. I watched him look at it and he didn't do anything and just had me still line up with the rest. And I remember thinking he should be fast tracking me, but I think he looked at me, thought I was probably making it up, and just didn't do anything.
There's been a problem since the pandemic started. I remember, and this boiled my blood, was that when shops and all were reopened, and obviously you had to go in wearing a face mask, but then people twigged on that exemption. If you had a sunflower lanyard, you could be exempt. And then I seen people selling them. And I was see what's coming. And then I remember I used mine about 3 weeks later, going into Tesco's to do the shop. Now, most of the time I could wear a mask, but sometimes there was days I just couldn't.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain. It felt really constricted. And the feeling of the fabric would be on my face would drive me insane. So I remember I went into Tesco's and I had my headphones on, so I was fairly oblivious to what was around me. And then what happened is I was literally lifting something out of the shelf and I turned around and there was a person this close to me, staring and going, "What are you wearing that?" And then I remember it was clear they were trying to get my attention, so I pulled one ear off everyone and went, "Yeah, what are you wearing that for?" And I remember thinking, at this point, this was the whole social distance, really 6 foot apart. This person was less than a foot from my face. And bear in mind, at this point, I lived with a sister who I knew was immunocompromised and also a 3-month-old baby. So it was like, back the hell up. And I was like, I'm autistic. And they went, really? You don't look at the me. And I'm thinking,
oh my gosh.
That's
really bad.
Oh my God, you don't look it to me about a neurological, oh my God.
The thing was, because I had my back to the shelf, I couldn't go anywhere. The whole lanyard was a discreet way to let people know that you might need a bit of help, not this thing where people can come up and demand an explanation as to why you have one.
Absolutely. That's I'm so sorry that happened to you, Ryan. That's horrendous. You have to question it. What on earth was wrong with that person? That is not normal behavior.
And if they've done that to me, they've done that to someone else. In fairness, one of the Tesco members of staff seen it and almost ran down the aisle and sort of pulled me to the side and was asking, "You okay?" Well, I'm sorry. First, that person says, is I'll stand at the top of each aisle you're in case that person tries to follow you or something. But I remember, as it is in Tesco's, as you're walking up and down the aisles, you do sort of walk past. And I seen it every time. The person was just giving me that death stare. And I'm just like, what is your problem? To the point that I actually finished my shopping, or I didn't get half the things that were supposed to be there. I got halfway through Tesco and I'm sorry, but I can't do this. I will just get what I have and go. So with Dad, I remember, so I got home with Dad, I went, "Where's all the frozen on it?" "I'm sorry, no."
That is awful. Like, what is actually wrong with people? Like, especially, I just can't get over it, especially as soon as you said as well, which you should never have had to do or justify yourself or explain, say, I have autism, and then that still be the reaction. Like, that person is unhinged.
What it was for me, that I've been told plenty of times online I don't act autistic or don't. I've never had it happen to my face until that day. And I just remember I was in complete shock. And I don't think it properly sunk in what had happened until I got home. And I was like, what the fuck? Sorry about
Yeah, it's very bad, like, especially having that in person. Like, it's very intimidating that like, to your face as well. Like with that's one of the things that still annoys me now. With, like, you spoke about how close they were getting to you. Like with social distancing, that it's like, anyway, before COVID, people like don't like going close anyway.
Yeah.
Regardless of COVID, but with COVID in place still, it's like, because the rules have been scrapped, like, for maybe people who are immunocompromised, or people anyway who don't like close contact. It's like people just go. It's like, you speak about Tesco, for example. If you ask for someone for help, maybe a person, they'll go very close to you, and like, you keep moving back, and then if you say, like, what I would normally say, I'm immunocompromised, can you keep back? They just get offended. It's just that they're offended about what you're saying, that in the nicest possible way, and they're not happy with it.
I know, but it's not even worth the risk though, Mason. See, recently, like, even though I'm, like I was saying, like, I'm very luckily, thankfully, in remission and stuff at the moment, but see, being immune compromised, see, the past, every time I'm going out, I still pick up everything. Whenever I get these, like, viruses, even when I get, like, tonsillitis, like, I'm floored. Like, I have no immune system to fight it all. I then get recurrent tonsillitis because the antibiotics can't fight it off, and it's back again less than a month later. I actually just need them removed. But it's awful. And then I remember I was so, every time I get it, I'm so unwell. Like, I've had to phone doctors, like, on top of, like, the antibiotics or, like, other things, and they've just been like to me, Sarah, it's not, because I'm half the time I'm complaining because I'm like, it's not even like the sore throat or anything at this point. It's my body can't fight the infection, so I get really bad fevers, like, literally, like, hot, like, I'm in bed freezing 1 minute, like, sweating it out the next, like, banging headaches, like, no energy, like, can't move. And whenever I describe all this, they're like, it's because your body literally can't fight infection, so you get all the infection symptoms and your body's just struggling big time. So, like, I don't, people, until, like they say, until you get it, like, you don't get it, like, it's so bad.
Can I just ask, this is of the both of you, but would you find that doctors either don't believe your symptoms or don't, or believe you're exaggerating them, like for effect or something, when you're saying that you're genuinely ill? They're like, oh, it's all in your mind or something? Because I know my sister's had that experience with some. I think your current ones are very good, but she's had some truly horrible ones too.
Yeah. There was definitely a point when before I was diagnosed with Crohn's. I went to my local doctor, who's not my doctor anymore. But at the time, like, it was to do with actually a fistula. I didn't know what a fistula was at that point, actually, and I felt some uncomfortable, like, at my back passage, and
Yeah.
I was saying to the doctor, can you check it? And the doctor was refusing to check it because they thought I would be uncomfortable, and were kind of going on and keep saying that kind of stuff, and it was almost like they didn't want to because they were uncomfortable. If that's the case, they could easily got someone else to do it, and then due to that caused more pain for me for a longer period of time. So I ended up seeing my consultant maybe a week or longer. It would have been longer because it's harder to get appointments with your consultant than the doctor. And then that happened, and then I think she had something happened to her that she no longer worked there or something like that. And then, yeah, I didn't have her anymore. but it wasn't a great.
No, my experience is very similar to yours, Mason. See, prior to being diagnosed, I look back at old pictures and stuff now, and I did not look healthy, like, compared to, like, now, especially, if you know what I mean. Like, I dropped down to like, I'm only short anyway. I'm just under 5'2", but because it, like, as Ryan knows, I've only ever been very short, and it's usually the running joke in our friend group as well. But Sarah's height is always the joke. But so because of that, I got told I dropped down to like 7 stone. Like, all the Crohn symptoms were starting, like bleeding a lot, going to the toilet all the time, the vomiting. Was telling them all this. I got laughed at and got told I was like just a young petite girl and probably eating something that was annoying me. Again, when the abscess and fistula had developed, I was sent by my work to A&E because I literally couldn't move. Was like found in the toilet, collapsed in pain from like the abscess and stuff. And they A&E still didn't take it seriously because I wasn't diagnosed yet. But thankfully, since I've been diagnosed, doctors have been brilliant. Even like GPs and stuff. If I tell them like I've like the tonsillitis or any kind of other illness, because thankfully they recognize, like, you know, the level of immune suppressors we're on and stuff, they're really good, and they're always very cautious. If anything, like, they'll almost overdo it, which I can't complain about, which is really good. But absolutely same as you, Mason, struggled big time when not diagnosed, because I think they think, oh, this is someone in just making stuff up. But funny enough, whenever you actually have the medical evidence there, all of a sudden you're taken seriously.
Yeah, and like I probably mentioned it to you, Sarah, before, but I when I was diagnosed, it wasn't easy. Like, you had to push a lot, and like, especially to have a colonostropy for my diagnosis, that had to be pushed, because I could wait another month. Considering at this point I was in a lot of pain, like that burning feeling
Horrible.
in your stomach, and they said, like, I remember the time when I needed to go to hospital in the middle of the night, and I was there basically till the morning, and still in pain. So I might as well just stayed at home, really. But I did get seen in the end. But yeah, it's annoying when you're not getting believed straight away. Like, why would you be there? You wouldn't
Literally.
you wouldn't be asking, or I wouldn't be going to a doctor saying, I need your help. Like, it's silly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, people don't go, like, normal people don't go to the doctors or A&E or whatever, like, to take time out of their day to waste it there. Like, it's mad. Get it when they think that.
I think my sister, her symptoms weren't taken seriously until she ended up in hospital, and this would have been January 2020. Sorry, December 2020, January 2021. Because I always remember because Ethan was about 1 at the time, and what happened was that because of the COVID rules, it's fair enough. One visitor was allowed in per patient, which is fair enough. Until I tried to bring in my nephew, and we were stopped and said it's only one visitor. I'm like, really? I'm like, it says, look, it's my sister's son. She hasn't seen him in a couple of days. Can I bring him up? And I'll not go into the room. Like, I'll set him at the door. You know, when he goes, no, sorry, you can't come in. I'm like, but I can come in, yes. And he says, I'm excited. He says, would the baby be able to walk? I'm thinking, he's a year old. He's not going to be able to walk to a fucking hospital. Thankfully, one of the nurses overruled him and went, okay, right, fair enough. It's her son. Okay, fair enough. You know, common sense prevailed there. But the thing my sister was that stress was making it worse. And I was thinking, not being allowed to see her son, I'm pretty sure, was damn stressful.
Absolutely.
And so my sister dropped on. I remember I hadn't seen her in a few weeks. And I remember when I went to see her in hospital, I got quite upset with how frail she looked, frankly. And that was my thing, is that my sister has always been someone that's always like, what do you call it, a lot of energy, running about and everything. And to see her like that was kind of a shock to the system. And that was my thing. And I'm thinking, at this point, she's still not a diagnosis. They were like saying, oh, we need to check it's not this and not that and not this and not that. Even though I think my sister done research says, I'm telling you, it's this. And they were like, oh, but we need to check it's not this. First, she's thinking, but can you not check it's also, can you not do this check at the same time? And eventually, like I said, she got the diagnosis, but even then, it was still a case of, then after that, a lot of it's basically a lot of trial and error in terms of treatments. I don't know what it is, the medication she takes. All I know is it has to be refrigerated. When it's picked up, it's in these big boxes, if that helps. And I think it's like some sort of like a shake of some sort.
Okay.
Oh, I wonder what one it is. There's so many that you whenever someone says, you're like, what one is it? Or you hear apparently there's my consultant was saying there's more and more apparently new medications coming out, which is fantastic for us. And apparently there's one, I think it's in clinical trials at the moment, and it's meant to be, I think, for Crohn's and colitis, and it's meant to be a game changer. So I'm really hoping, I think now I could be putting words in his mouth, but the way he described it was almost like a big, this should be, if this one works, this is the one that maybe everyone wants to be on kind of thing. But yeah, like there's so many more ones coming out, and then I've been on the same medication now for like years that I've got so used to my own one. Like I'm never thinking of the others.
I was the same with my ADHD medication. I was on the same one for 10 years. And I changed it, and I remember I didn't changed it like one, and I looked at the bottle when I got home. Got my name, and I googled it, and it was pretty much the same thing, bar a minor couple of changes. But I'm also going through a profound thing of my own, in that my nephew has been referred for an ASD assessment. So this is a bit weird, is that I've been helping parents with this now for a decade. And now I'm seeing it within my own family. It's a bit weird, obviously. Yes, it's me and all, but it's a case, obviously. But then again, this is a very good position because my mum obviously went through exactly the same thing with me. So Megan obviously has a lot of support there. But it's surreal. You see, Ethan's he turns 3 in December, but he's still not talking. But he communicates well. Like, and this is the thing, is that I can see what he's communicating pretty well. So can everyone around him. But it's surreal to watch, and it's a bit odd in terms of it. It's like I went through the looking glass almost, and I'm seeing it. It's not. It's a lot easier to provide advice to people when it's like almost when it's strangers. Frankly, when it's your own sister, and your own sister is not afraid of telling me fuck off. My sister would be very stubborn, but equally we get on very well, and that's the thing in terms of. Like, she lives in Larne, I live in Lisburn now, so we're about an hour away from each other, but we still see each other probably at least once a fortnight. We're still quite a close family. So that's been odd to go through, but it's a case of, it's also an interesting perspective for me because I'm now seeing in real time just how bad some of the services are, and I'm sure Mason has experienced it. Today alone, for example, I'm dealing with someone, she has a private diagnosis of ADHD, but the Southern Health Trust will not give her medication unless they do their own diagnosis. But the Southern Health Trust currently do not have the capacity to diagnose ADHD. So they're telling her to get her tablets, she has to go through a service that doesn't exist.
That is insane. Oh my goodness. Like,
Actually, aside me when I read the email, I was like, what?
yeah. Oh my. And I don't feel like, I know they're saying all that with the regulations, but I'm just like, I just feel like it's cruel and not okay. You can't do that to someone.
India, every other health trust accepts private diagnosis for ADHD, and here's the joke: the doctors that are diagnosing it privately are the same ones that are doing it for the NHS. My own ADHD doctor that I see through the NHS, I have to contact his private medical office to get a hold of him, and he has told me point blank that it would be a lot easier if I went private and paid the same.
Yeah, which is so shocking how it is.
But I'll come to the chase. Quite frankly, in the current climate, I don't have that money.
No, absolutely not.
You're actually getting into debt. They're that desperate to get a diagnosis, and that's my worry: is that there's a privatization by stealth going on almost, and it's a case of people are being forced down the private route, not because they want to, but because they feel backed into a corner. Now, I don't know with Crohn's and UC, is there anything similar? Is there a case of like were you ever told you should be private to get this done?
Yeah, I was told to get things done quicker. It was always, I remember back in 2018 when it was all kicking off and I was needing like the emergency operations and stuff. They were waiting on like an emergency MRI, and we'd said if we didn't get it done that week, my mum, through her work, she had bupa, so it could be covered. But to get it sped up, basically we had to go private through her work cover that there week, and thankfully it was covered. But I remember my consultant being really annoyed at the time, being like, this isn't fair, like people shouldn't be having to do that. And my consultant's lovely and like just and nice, and he was just so frustrated. He was like, people shouldn't be having to do this. And even last time I was speaking to him, because of COVID, we hadn't actually spoke or seen each other in years, and he was actually just like, it's not like okay, it's so annoying, like people have been getting sicker or like waiting. And at the time they thought I had developed a stricture, but we've realized I just don't develop, like I don't because where my Crohn's is, I don't absorb bile salts, so basically they're like poison to anyone's body. So I was basically being poisoned by my own body and thought I was having extreme flare-ups that were so painful. But thankfully when I got back on the medication and stuff, it nipped it in the bud, but just took a while to figure that one out. But yeah, I remember at the time he was so frustrated because he was like, you've been sitting and like probably getting worse, and like these, like it's just not okay with everything going on. But yeah, it's frustrating.
I'm a big defender of the NHS. My girlfriend's a midwife, so I would be strangled in the dead of night if I didn't. But like I've seen firsthand, when you get access to the services, they are first class. The problem is that they're not being funded well enough.
Yeah.
You know, I've ever actually experienced that works with you. It tends to be very good. The problem is getting to them.
Yeah, it is. It's like there's like, and I think the same as you, Ryan. Like there's definitely an aspect of they almost want things to go private now, isn't it? Just so they can collapse the NHS, which nobody wants. Everyone loves and values it so much, and like be lost without it. And then they're definitely trying to do something, aren't they?
Like I remember I had a notion at one point of moving to America, and I remember it was all actually looking forward. It looked relatively positive until I started digging into my insurance premiums. As you can imagine, my insurance.
Oh yeah.
My medication, if I was buying in America, my one bottle does me 10 days here. A bottle of my medication in America would be $750.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Almost $2,500 a month, and that's just my ADHD medication.
I just honestly, I'm like, how on earth can anyone, like people can't afford that? Like there's no, we go, how do people afford it? Like there's no way, unless you're like a millionaire or incredibly wealthy, people can't afford that.
It's crazy.
The rationing it, that's the thing. I remember looking, okay, I could maybe buy one bottle a month, but then that basically means I would get a third of my medication. Like diabetes rationing insulin because they can't afford it. It's a dystopian. I just sometimes fear it's something that we don't. A lot of us, I think, sometimes don't value the NHS and maybe don't realize what it does until one day it gets taken away.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good we do have the NHS, because, like you say, in America they have to pay out of their own pocket for their medication, which is it's crazy. Like if you go over there for holidays, I go okay, I guess, but maybe don't go for more than a few weeks or a week or two.
Yeah.
We'd be off if we had to pay for our infusions and injections. we wouldn't be doing it. We couldn't afford it.
No holidays for us.
No, we'd just be sitting eating probably spaghetti or rice or pasta non-stop. That'd be it.
Yeah.
Press the website. Top of my head, but I can't say I'll remember the minute this call ends. But what it does is basically if you input basically what your conditions are and what medication you take, it will actually tell you how much the NHS is paid for your treatment. And I would sort of urge anyone watching this to do it, because it might really open your eyes as to not only how valuable the NHS is, how much money it can save you. And I think it's something that we should be holding very dear, the fact that no one will ever be denied medical treatment because they are too poor. I just find America, for me, what sums it up is that you have to pay if you phone an ambulance. And I find that frightening, because I just think if someone is hesitating phoning an ambulance because they're worried about how they're going to pay for it, that's a pretty damning indictment on the society you live in.
Absolutely. And a lot of people just don't, and just end up dying, which is horrendously sad that that's the situation people have to get themselves into. I think as well, my infusion, the vedolizumab, I think I googled, it's just over $2,000 every 8 weeks when I get it. And like, imagine I had to actually fork out $2,000 every 8 weeks. Like, I'm going, do I even get paid that much? Like, you know, you're going, does your pay cover that or what?
Like, do I get medical treatment, or do I pay to heat my home? You know, it's
Yeah,
like, if you're even making that choice, that's terrifying.
absolutely. It's so bad. And then, wee Mason, are you on Humira still at the moment?
Yeah, I'm still on Humira. Yeah, I'm not sure if I was on the last time we spoke. I might have been.
That's what I was trying to remember there. If you were or not, because I remember you were changing medications at the time.
Yeah, I must have done. I must have been on Humira not long when we
Yeah,
did our one, and yeah, I'm still on it. Um, so I'm every 2 weeks still. Um,
good. Is it
every
working?
Friday. Yeah, it's done alright.
Good.
Like I've had to adjust days. Like when I went on holiday earlier in the year, I didn't want to do it. Well, I did it while on holiday, but it, one of the times, so I had to take it with me, put it in the fridge at the holiday, um, place, and yeah, but it's good. It's doing well. I'm still taking like the acetylpyrin, the vitamin D, um, that 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 kind of stuff as well. Um,
Good.
so um. Yeah, it's doing all right. Um, so you've been on your infusions for how many years you've been on it, Sarah?
Oh, so this one, they tried me on Inflix. I was the original medication when I was diagnosed with steroids. They did not work. It was too far gone. Then it was infliximab, which worked for for a few months. Then I went incredibly allergic to it and was taken off it. Then it was the December 2018, so like a year after I was diagnosed, then I was put on vedolizumab. And this coming December, insanely, it's I think 3 years since I'll be, yeah, about 3 years that they'll have had me on it now.
Oh, yeah, because
Wow.
I when I was on infliximab, I was on it for a year and had a reaction at the end. So
You saying a
infliximab,
reaction, and I was
yeah,
like, oh my, I kept giving it to you, even though you were like in anaphylactic shock.
yeah. It was it wasn't a friendly reaction, but and then I was actually advised to go on Humira first, and then I didn't want to do that. I'd rather have started with an infusion
Yeah,
after I was diagnosed and gone Humira injections. Um,
I totally get that. That's whenever I was being moved on to, whenever the new infliximab wasn't working and also I was allergic, they give me the choice. They said I could choose between vedolizumab, and I'm not even going to try to butcher the name, but it was the injection form of it, and it began as like using mab or so. I couldn't even begin to tell you. Began with you anyway, and I had the same mentality as you. I went, I'm not self-injecting at this point. Didn't feel ready for it, so I stuck to the infusions. But now years later, my veins are still that bad that I'm like, should I really maybe swap to injections now just to give them a bit of a break?
it worked out because like I'm doing it at home, and like my reaction happened just before the pandemic. So and then I was on Humira, and then so it's better. Although I go to the hospital sometimes for the occasional blood tests, um, and then yeah, the people realise who I am, and even in the mask, I still wear my mask whenever I go to hospital. Um, and when yeah, it worked out well in a way. Like I chose right to do the infusion first. Otherwise, if something happened to Humira, I might have to go on the infusions where I had to be hospital based, which wouldn't have been the best place, especially at the start of the pandemic.
Absolutely. At the very start of the pandemic, they were so worried because I was on the infusions. They moved all our infusions from the Royal up to some like medical center in Lisburn. So out where Ryan is, which is a good 20-25 minute drive away maybe. And they moved them all there because they went, we don't want to use anywhere near the hospital. And it was only like as time started to go on, then they started like bringing us kind of back again.
Was it Lagan Valley Hospital that were
It, it wasn't a hospital. It was like a wee. It was some kind of wee medical center, I think, but it was like they had, I think, kind of like closed it down and let us kind of take it over, if you know what I mean. But it was weird. It was kind of just like a 2-story almost old house or something.
Yeah, I've only been since February. I'm still very much getting used to the place. I live beside. Do you know where the Leisureplex is?
Yes, vaguely. I remember the Lisburn swimmers as a kid.
Right. Interestingly, our house is right below the flight path of in the where the Northern Ireland Air ambulance space. So we always hear it going over our.
Nice.
So no, it's pretty cool though. When obviously we're also 2 minutes away from Hillsborough, so when King Charles came, the security operation. Honestly, all I heard all night was just helicopters, and I was like, "Look, I get he's here, but quiet it down, please."
I know, trying to
Sleep. But interesting, you're talking about the medications. It sort of reminds me of my ADHD medication. First of the unpronounceable names, mine's methylphenidate. And I remember the doctor said, "Can you spell that?" And I just went, "No."
Absolutely not.
Trial and error. My first couple of years of those diagnosed with ADHD, because I was only 9 at the time, they couldn't really give me the tablet with Suran. How does it feel? I'm just gonna be like, good or bad. It's not very informative. So what my mum would do is my mum would take a small dose of it to see what her effects would be on her. And the stuff that were given me were basically effectively like tranquilizers. So basically what they done was they basically sedated me. So I was literally sitting there in a complete sort of trance, not really absorbing anything. This wasn't working for me. It was basically reducing me basically into a zombie state. And what happened is that the doctor says, "Okay, Mrs. Hendry, we'd like to give your son some stimulants." And I goes, "I'm sorry, what? You want to give a kid with ADHD stimulants?" My mom, the doctor goes, "Yes." And my mom was like, sorry, can you explain this to me? Because I'm lost." She goes, "So the stimulants aren't like sugar or sweeteners or like things that you would find in sweets that will give you a sugar rush. The stimulants are targeted at the part of the brain that deals with concentration and regulating sort of concentration, things like that. It will stimulate that part of the brain to raise it up to the level that a so-called normal brain would be." So my mom went, "Okay, I'm still very skeptical of giving my son any sort of stimulants."
Yeah.
At this point, I was about 12, so my mom was like, "I'm not. What is going to happen? This is going to be like I've given him 6 cans of Red Bull." So mom took them. And my mom said that she had the most productive week of her life. So the house. Have any of you ever seen the movie Limitless?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Isn't that the one where Bradley Cooper takes the tablets?
Yes. So my tablet, obviously not. They don't have that effect. But it's a case of my brain is at here. The tablets bring my brain up to here. If say you or Mason took them, they're effectively legalized speed. So a normal functioning level they would give other people. I always keep my girlfriend. I always wind her up and say, "Here, Bronny, if you want to feel really productive, have one of these."
So I was going to joke there, Ryan, and be like, I might need one. Give me some energy.
It might feel like you're in the Matrix.
Yeah.
I was a lot younger when I was on a smaller dose. My mum admittedly confessed to very, very occasionally. When I was on the trial period, taking one when she needed the house cleaned.
You know what? I'm totally on your mummy's wavelength because I was trying to do that earlier, and I'm going, that would have helped me massively.
And when she sat down after she finished, she couldn't sit down because she just kept staring around the room looking for things to do.
Yeah.
I like with the medication, I couldn't cope without it. Like I wouldn't be able to hold my job down. I don't know. I do remember though. I had a bit of an experience. Sarah might remember at the start of uni, I used to drink vodka Red Bulls.
Yes, but yeah, I remember that we were all loving our. And remember in Union, you could get, was it 2 doubles for a £5? Can't get that anymore.
Then for that, but what happened was that my brain somehow did not make the connection between the Red Bull part of vodka Red Bull. So I was getting home and basically sitting in my bed like a fucking hummingbird, sleep. Then what happened is that I remember my mom was like, "Man, you're coming home and you're not sleeping. What the? Does most people come home drunk and fall asleep easily? What the hell is wrong with you?" And I'm like, so she goes, "What are you drinking?" It's vodka Red Bulls. "Man, you're not allowed that." I went, "But it's vodka." She goes, "What's the second part?" And I went, "Red." I was like, and it turns out actually when you mix my medication with Red Bull, it turns out very, very dangerous. It can cause cardiac arrest.
Oh,
Hey. But after that, I was read the riot act by my doctor and told never again. And of course, then let's say a couple of the ones that we were friends with at uni refused to believe this doctor and kept buying me them to the point that
I'm not surprised. I can imagine that on nights out, them being like, yeah, right, here's a drink, go on.
even then, there was occasionally someone would have me one and they would start to drink it and then go, oh, I can't, but it was like one of those things. Like, I remember the time that I was in the library at Queen's and this was been around exam time. And what happened is that, again, nameless person, can I just point out, these people are all good people. They don't sound it in these stories, but they are lovely people. They offered me a Red Bull. And I thought, well, this seems to help people. I've never had a Red Bull, really, like on its own before, because they were obviously banned in my house. So I was like, we can't do too much of a harm. Me being me, I always just drink everything in one go. But I don't know, this doesn't really have much of an effect. So I got another one. And then the two of them kicked in, right? My vision went blurred because my swivel, or not swivel, but the stuff that bounce from side to side. I couldn't control my hands to the point that I had to go to one of these guys. He's like, here's my phone. Can you ring my dad, please? Because I knew my dad was in Belfast and doing work. And I said, can you ring my dad and tell him to come and get me? My dad had to physically strap me into the seatbelt and then do it like twice because I was not able to get in the car. I was that hyperactive.
No, that's so.
One of those things is that, again, it's like my brain. Again, the whole thing is that my brain, it needs an instant. If I have my medication, it needs an instant response to something. So my thing is, like, for example, if I take 2 painkillers and they don't work within 30 seconds, I'll be like, oh, I haven't taken enough of them. Even though every rational thought would be no, wait for them to work. Whereas my thing is, I drank a Red Bull and didn't feel anything within 2 minutes. I was like, oh, just maybe take a second one. It's the big part of the brain ADHD. It's impulsiveness. For example, I never, ever, ever, ever go to do the grocery shopping without my medication because I will come home. I've been sent to get bread and milk. I will come back with 50 quid's worth of shopping and probably no milk and probably the wrong type of bread. It's dangerous. It's the same way. No way you always say don't do your shopping when you're hungry because otherwise you just get loads of stuff you're not going to eat. It's the same with me as I don't do my shopping on medicated because it's an absolute disaster. And it's things like that people perhaps don't realize about ADHD. They just always think, oh, what it means is, they're a bit hyperactive and they don't have a long attention span. But it's things like that, and as well, a lot of people with ADHD are very vulnerable to things like substance abuse as a self-medication. And I will be honest, I teetered on the edge of it at uni at times. In terms of, again, I think maybe this is partly the autism I was fun with the socializing. I find it less jarring when I've had a few drinks, let's say. And I didn't make the connection at the time. But basically, I remember I went on one night out sober and I lasted 45 minutes and then I just phoned the park. I just actually got a train home. It was that early.
Yeah.
I remember after that, and then it was sort of that. It opened my eyes up. Like I would have a drink with my dinner maybe. My girlfriend, she'd have a glass of wine and I'd have a cider. There's nothing wrong. But I found that I got to the stage I was almost having to rely on alcohol to socialize with people. And it wasn't a crowded environment, the loud music, the people bumping into you, which was the thing that used to wind me up. Not wind me up, but it used to really get to me. And I just found that with the alcohol, it numbed it slightly. I wasn't, sorry, this, I wasn't like falling over drunk. But it was like a sort of thing that there was a bit where I'd like to have a couple, and then I just found it was more bearable. What I didn't recognize it at the time. I just thought, it's uni, everybody drinks. But then it's sort of, whereas now I know, is if I'm in a social situation, I'm fine without alcohol. Indeed, I very rarely actually drink on a night out now because I tend to drive there and back. I just find then what it means is I have my car. If I hit my limit, I can go, right, everyone, good night.
You can go today. Yeah, no, that makes so much sense as well. Ryan, what you were saying as well, like, see, thinking as well, like on top of your ADHD and then also autism, like you were probably in sensory overload when we were on like all A's and half those clubs because they were like hard to deal with at like but the best of times. God love you.
Area, I could not see that inside bit. I couldn't cope with it.
Oh, it was. I remember at times it was so overcrowded. You're on the dance floor there wasn't. You were like sardines. People were just kind of like banging against each other. You couldn't actually dance. Like it was a lot.
To go back and said to me, "No, do you want to go do that again?" I'm like, "No,
No, I couldn't do that. See, now with age, I couldn't go back to do any of that again. I'm just like, nope.
No, like for example, like my girlfriend, she's 24, so she's 4 years younger than me. You know, so that's the thing is that she's just getting out of that phase, thankfully.
Yeah.
That thing is, you go back and I always wonder, did I really enjoy it, or did I force myself to do it because everyone else? Like, what I will say is, I had a great time at uni. I met some amazing people, like such as yourself, and I still would talk to them semi regularly. You know, occasionally bump into them in Belfast. But sometimes I wish that I maybe hadn't have forced myself into. I think sometimes I couldn't say no to a night out because I was always afraid that I would miss out.
Yeah, definitely. It was that the whole FOMO, wasn't it? Being like, what if something happens in the night out and I'm not there?
But no, I think I suppose everyone probably has that. It's in case you look back and well, that's 10 years. Do you know that's 10 years ago since we started uni?
I know, isn't it mental? It's insane. Like, I was thinking, going like, we've known each other 10 years. Like, how is that? How is that possible? I don't feel that old, but we are that old.
On my Facebook memories ago, I'm like, is that 10 years ago? I was there. I was saying, years ago. Oh, that can't be.
I know, it's wild. Like, I keep thinking that. I keep being like, how was it 10 years? It was, yeah, we would have been in first semester of uni this time. 10. I don't even want to say that out loud. I had to stop myself there. I didn't want to finish the sentence. I was like, this time 10 years ago, I was in first semester of uni.
That was a decade ago.
That was a decade. Oh God, I feel a bit. I'm like, I'm realizing my age, and I'm like, oh my God.
Fortunately, we get older every day.
I know. I birthday there as well, so I'm like already feeling old at 29. But I say that, but still feel young. Mentally feel young, physically feel about probably 50.
Yeah.
Top camera right for that. So we're looking at it. It's a really nice place. So you probably know where it is. It's CIYMS. It's up near where like Ashfield School is. The rugby club, is it?
Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
And then like a physical business around what? I don't know what. So this would be a really nice place for your 30th birthday. And I just stared at her like, excuse me.
You're like, that is far too soon.
28. Watch it.
Yeah.
I know. I keep getting the jokes now. You've turned 29, you might as well be 30. And I'm like, oh, thanks, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, like with medication, when I had a sigmoid ostrophy last year, and because when I had my colonoscopy when I was getting diagnosed, I had sedation that time, but with that I had gas in air for the sigmoidoscopy because I wanted to change it around, see what it was different, what it's like, and then it's like the guy next to me is holding a pump, and he says, "You say when you need more gas and air to help you breathe," and and then but like first few minutes, I kept saying to him, "I want more," and it wasn't the reason that I was in any discomfort, which I was a little bit more towards the end and a little bit in the middle and towards the end. It was more because I was feeling like I was drunk.
Yeah.
I felt like I was drunk, and I like that feeling. And then he realised that I was just doing it for the sake of it, and he weren't offering it. He said, "You can't have any more now."
Oh no. I remember I got the gas and air for I had to get a flexible sigmoidoscopy one time and they gave me the gas and air, and I remember I was fully inhaling it, trying to get it as well, and like, get this over. But I think that on the same when they limited it, because I was just like fully inhaling it, like, nope, knock me out.
Yeah.
And you feel drunk, don't you? It gives you like a drunk feeling.
Yeah, it's a really good feeling. But and then just the guy is saying, "No, you can't." And then I think when they stopped it, I was in more pain because I I was more pain because I wasn't given any more, and they couldn't do that. I don't think they fully looked round everywhere because I had all that gas in there at the start, and then I felt the pain later on. So yeah,
Yeah. I
but
found
yeah,
I'm actually kind of glad you said that, wee Mason, purely because whenever you were like, oh, I didn't find it that sore, I hated my flexible sigmoidoscopy. That I've had two. The first one they give me actual, like, I think a bit of sedation for, like, through the veins, but it didn't actually like numb the pain. It was they basically roofied me. It was afterwards I forgot, but like during it I was awake and it was very painful. And then it was the next one, they only give me gas and air, but it was annoying because I was undiagnosed at the time, so I think it was like also because it was all active as well, it was extra painful. And I remember when they started it being like, this is really sore, and then fully inhaling loads to try and like ease it. And then whenever I wasn't like inhaling all the gas and air, very quickly the pain came back, and I remember being like, they need to give me more.
yeah. Like I don't know if it's dangerous or not, just to keep having it. Like it, but what happened is like maybe from an autism perspective, it wasn't you were they call it laughing gas, don't they? So it didn't make me laugh. So I was a bit confused, saying, why am I not laughing?
Yeah.
No, that would have been brilliant. You'd have given them a laugh. That would have been brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was my first procedure last year. It would have been like last September after my birthday. So I was looking forward to my birthday, and then knowing after my birthday, I've got to go down for this procedure at 10:30 in the morning, go in the gown. Happy days. But that was the first time since my colonostopy in 2017. But the stranger thing is, when I speak to different people from America on here, they say they have like they're asleep for like their like procedure, like a colonoscopy, for example, and like so some agree, like they say or I say it's only like 15 or so minutes, even less, and I don't know why in America that they are asleep and in UK we're not, because realistically it's not enough time really to be asleep unless
Definitely.
unless you're really, I guess, severe and you can't stay still. Maybe that may be a case like that. But even so, they could just put lots of sedation in you, like you're.
In America, I think it is you can choose. Obviously, but you have to pay. And I think most people tend to say, you know what? If you're going to stick that up there, I would rather be asleep and pay for the privilege.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Do you know you?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. What do you call it? I'm just remembering as well from you saying that. Whenever I was in hospital back in like 2018, my IBD nurse, when they were trying to get, when I was admitted, the infliximab set up, she was like, have you read anything like online about getting this? And I was like, no, not yet. Why? And she was saying, apparently in America, you know, we were saying they knock you out for like everything there. Apparently during even like your infusions, they knock you out for that. And
What?
she was, yeah. And she was like to me, no, Sarah, we don't knock you out for this. Like, this is for some reason Americans think it's okay to like knock people out for an infusion, but we don't do that here. You don't need to be knocked out. And I was like, I wouldn't even want to be knocked out. I'd want to make sure, you know, like you're not okay or taking some major reaction during it, if you know what I mean.
Unless I'm having surgery, yeah, I want to be knocked
Yeah,
out.
exactly. Knocked out for that, but the rest, as long as you're, for all the medical procedures, heavy sedation, I'm okay with. But if they really wanted to knock me out, I'd allow them to. But the heavy, as long as I have some sedation, I'm okay. But yeah, for an infusion, I'd rather be awake and get like you're done in like a few hours and you're out again. Like, you'd rather not waste your day. You know what I mean?
The good thing about the gas and air to the sedation is after you've done your procedure, you can go. But with the
Yeah,
sedation, you have to stay like an extra half hour, which
yeah,
is why I decided to change, because I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait enough for 30 minutes. I want to go.
exactly. You want to go home, don't you?
That's the one thing. Living with a midwife, I've learned a lot of things. Mainly about how childbirth is very, very complicated, and also my astonishing ignorance about what midwives do is that I remember I picked her up from work one night. She said, "Oh, I delivered a baby for the first time in 2 weeks," and I was like, "You're a midwife. It's your job not to deliver babies."
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
I was given a proper education that evening. So midwife, a social worker, a a best friend, a shoulder to cry on, sometimes just there to give you a kick on the backside. As you name it, just delivering the babies is one tiny part of her job, and it was like my astonishment what it was.
Yeah, I heard as well for midwifery, it's like a level above a nurse as well. You have to do like extra qualifications and stuff to get it. I only learned that in the summer there and was like, okay, that makes sense, because someone was telling me their mum was a midwife, but if you called her a nurse, she used to go, it's a midwife. Actually. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. It's an old term of a name, really, a midwife, isn't it? Like if you see like Downton Abbey or something, they use that term quite a lot in Downton Abbey, like a midwife and stuff like that. But yeah, it's interesting, I guess, to learn.
Yeah.
But there's actually a documentary coming out about the midwives in the Royal January on Channel 5 or Channel 4. Can't remember. My girlfriend's in it, as am I, for a few scenes, unfortunately. So you're advised. But it should be very good thing, because, like I said, I didn't know a lot about what midwives did. It also will highlight the staffing pressures they're under, frankly, and how they're being shafted by upper management. Maybe cut back.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like,
sorry, just what time is it? It's 8:30, so I need to go get my dinner. And
yeah, we'll finish up. Do you guys want to say anything just to finish? Like, any last words?
Thanks again for having me. Great speakers. It's good to catch up with Sarah as well. And congratulations on how well this has all been going. Actually, I've sort of been following it. I'd sometimes actually have it on in the car on my way to work or on the train. It's always been very interesting. Like I said, with me, I'm still learning about the Crohn's and UC. As you were talking about the different operations and stuff. I'm here in terms of herd. I will be honest. I maybe don't understand a lot of them, like infusions and stuff. I think I know what they are, but I don't know, a lot about them, about the medications. But I am sort of learning the difficulties that you can face with the different medications, and some of the society's attitudes towards it. Indeed, I first thought IBD was just, oh, you need the toilet a bit more. I will hold my hands up. That's how ignorant I was of it. But I think it's one of those things you maybe don't realize what it is until you're sort of forced to learn about it.
Yeah, it's less you have maybe a loved one or like a family member, or you have it yourself, I guess, where you kind of really want to talk about it and learn about it. So it's good that you're doing really good things, Ryan, with your like autism, ADHD awareness, and having more knowledge about Crohn's, ulcerative colitis. So yeah, thanks, Ryan. Sarah, do you want to say anything?
Yes, thank you so much again for having me, and it's been so lovely catching up with you guys again. Can't believe, feeling my age now that me and Ryan have realised we've known each other 10 years, but no, it's brilliant. But thank you so much for having me, as per usual. It's been lovely.
Yeah, it's been really cool. When I know we said before about me jumping out of a plane, and we spoke about planes earlier, so
well, congratulations. I was like, you're so brave. I don't think I would ever have the guts to do that.
That's something I'd never do. I will say this. I
think I would get to the top and go, oh, I need a toilet.
Also myself, so it was pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I'll do it again though, because I was so nervous, and then I did it, and then I got to the floor and I survived, and I was really fainted and hungry afterwards.
I'm sure. I've heard people say it's so scary doing it, but when you're actually doing it, it's like the best experience. But it's just the before is terrifying.
Heart won't beat as faster ever again.
Yeah, I was thinking that, and I don't think I'd be coping. I'd be like, oh.
Yeah.
I just strapped myself to the plane and refused to get off.
Yeah, that would probably be me as well. Like, no, I'm too scared now. Back down again.
Yeah, it's a good experience. Like I did it for rare diseases, which I've normally did for Crohn's and colitis UK, but I've done a lot for them, and like rare diseases is just another charity that I thought I'd do it for. But it was really cool, and it's really good to speak to you guys again, and catching up, and seeing that you've known each other for 10 years. So happy anniversary, I guess, coming up.
decade. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Sure, Mason, if you're ever in Northern Ireland, sure, I'm sure we could try and get all three of us to meet up and do something.
Yeah. I've always been meaning to go to Ireland, so it is on my list.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to let us know. We'll get something arranged if you're ever over.
Yeah. Oh, if you guys are ever over England area, let me know.
England, actually, I will. Well, I know I'm over there between Christmas and New Year, but it's very busy. But quite regularly now.
Yeah, we'll have to do a meetup at some point. It'd be really cool.
It'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Ryan and Sarah. It's been awesome speaking to you. Have a nice evening and rest of the week.
Me too.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.